Hi everyone, and welcome to RPG A Day 2021 as presented by the GMologist. So today's word is stream. And a stream flows into a river, which flows into an ocean, but that's not what the type of stream I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about stream as in streaming services, and just briefly, the last 3 shows that my wife and I have been binged watched, and what game I would run with them, maybe. Because it might all be the same, truth be told. Anyway, so we've been watching a lot of period dramas, and the first one I'll just go back a few. So the first one we just finished binge watching together is Downton Abbey. And this is one of a series of many period pieces that take place in England. I know Amy and I have I've watched in and out. Grantchester also, which takes place in the 60s England, is sort of a buddy cop crime drama, which I might get into another time. But Downton Abbey is the first one we binged, and then we also binged Versailles, and we binged, or we're binging now, The Crown. So first, Downton Abbey. Honestly, I really enjoyed it. I didn't think I'd like it, but it basically takes place in sort of it starts in the early 20th century, so the Edwardian period, and moves on into the 20s post World War I period, and it shows the life and times of a family of nobles, the Granthams, and the head of the family, Lord Grantham, and his family, his rich wife, heiress from America, and his daughters, and how they get along with the changing times, going from the sort of Victorian Edwardian style to the post-war changes that happen. And I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. They do show, much like the old upstairs, downstairs, how the nobility lives, and then how they go through the stories of the different people who are employed as their servants, whether they're footmen or butler, or they're both housemaids in kitchen as well as their ladies in waiting, the equivalent of. So really enjoyed it. We had a good time, and it actually has inspired me to look for all the maps and try to do something like a Downton Abbey Call of Cthulhu. So my wife and I were talking about which of the principal characters we would have as part of that investigator team. And it's a pretty interesting list. We debated back and forth on who we would have. So it's pretty fun, and maybe that'll come, soon to an offering for everyone. Good time with that show. And like I said, I'd probably run some Call of Cthulhu investigation based around some of the things that happened. Actually, especially around all the deaths that take place with the suitors of Lord Grantham's daughter Mary, which is pretty interesting. It could be some sort of investigation into what is going on behind the scenes and why. So I would use Call of Cthulhu. I'd probably throw some weird mythos in there, so it'd be Downton Abbey and Cthulhu, I guess, would be the game I would run. So there we go. That's the first one. Then Versailles. Versailles is basically a show about Louis XIV, the Sun King. So this is after Louis XIII and Dumas's Three Musketeers period, but before the big revolution, a couple kings later, Louis XVI. So it is more or less after the 30 Years' War, but the Louis XIV, the Sun King, comes to power and establishes France as the big kahuna in Europe, more or less. And it shows all the intrigue that goes on in Versailles. And actually, there was interesting that there was, in one season, there was intrigue by a satanic worshipping cult. There was intrigue by rivals of the crown. There was this whole Man in the Iron Mask theme that went throughout, and then plus the whole dichotomy between the very rich in Versailles and the very, very poor in Paris. And it talks about really how even the nobles are imprisoned because Louis has them all live at Versailles, and that's where court is held. So for both that and Downton Abbey, I really enjoyed the acting. And again, I didn't think I'd get into this intrigue as much as I did. And what's really cool is that there is actually at least a revolutionary France Call of Cthulhu product, Reign of Terror, that is out there. So it would be pretty easy to just backtrack a little bit. And once again, I thought, okay, who would make the best investigators? Or maybe we'll just have one character as the patron, and then he has a set of sort of anonymous investigators, because that seems to happen with the chief of police there throughout the series. He has usually like a cadre of 4 or 5 soldiers or other with him that help with his investigations or prosecute his investigations. So that's probably how that would go. And finally, we then get to The Crown, and The Crown is a different kind of story and tale. It is the reign of Elizabeth II, and actually we're in season 3, so this is the late 60s. So the episode that we last watched was the moon landing, and it actually is more intriguing than I thought it would be. Right, we see the Queen as this very iconic figure. We've seen her, she's 95 years old now and has reigned for almost 75 years, I want to say, maybe more. So it's pretty impressive, and it just the things that happened, and seeing the Cold War honestly from the point of view of the British Crown and the British government is very different than here in the U.S. what we get from our interpretation and perspective of the Cold War. So it's been very interesting, and I can't wait to see the next seasons. The most interesting thing about it so far in season 3 is that they did an actor switch. So all the actors who were in season 1 and 2, who played the Queen and Prince Philip and Princess Margaret, have been switched to other people. So the only one who stayed the same has been John Lithgow as Winston Churchill, but he dies early in the 3rd season anyway. So spoiler if you don't understand that historically, I guess. But I don't know what game would I run with that. I feel like I would run like a espionage-based game. And I want to say some of the best games for an espionage-based game that I've played are these games that have universal systems. And I think that would be either Hero System Revised 5th or 6th edition, which 5th Revised or 6th edition, which I haven't run in a long time, or GURPS, because it's pretty easy, as you've heard many, many times from GM Shadow or Roleplay Rescue. So Che Webster for Roleplay Rescue and Barry for GM Shadow, that GURPS is really good and works really well for historical games. So maybe it would be like a GURPS modern, really. I mean, I think if you wanted to add fantastical elements, then you could go to like a fantasy age or modern age, actually, or a modern, go back to 3.5 engine and go to modern D20. But I think GURPS would really work, honestly. To have a game set with the modern day age, maybe not a lot of magic, mostly intrigue and Cold War espionage, using GURPS in the real world. I guess you could add fantastical elements or weird elements, right? Like that the Soviets have aliens, or are talking with aliens or something like that. But there'd be more of a 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, like fringe type thing. Saying that, maybe like Fall of Delta Green or Delta Green could work too, but then that goes back into Cthulhu, and I wanted to vary it. But actually, Delta Green might not be a bad thing, or even Fall of Delta Green, which uses the gumshoe rules. So I think those are the 3. So there we go. In summary, Downton Abbey, it would be Downton Abbey and Cthulhu. Versailles, it would be Reign of Terror, which is a Call of Cthulhu product. And for the Crown, I think it would be GURPS. Or if you still are of the Cthulhu and weird mindset, then Delta Green or Fall of Delta Green, which uses the gumshoe rules. So thank you again for listening. That is Stream for RPG A Day 2021.